fight this guy. Oh, you got injured in camp, you lose to that guy too. Now you're set back when you could have been a champion.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of like weirdness going on with possibilities and, you know, just luck, bad luck, and good luck.
Bad luck and good luck. Timing, I think, is a big thing.
How is something like this allowed to happen? How is Jake Paul allowed to fight Gervonta Davis? It's
I don't know.
Completely unfair. It is completely just. I can't say the word that I want to say because I don't want to get canceled.
And then going out there and taking on a guy that is maybe 92 pounds heavier, that is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a...
Joe Rogan delivers a harsh critique of Jake Paul's decision to fight Gervonta Tank Davis despite the enormous size difference between them. Rogan explains that weight classes exist for a reason, to protect fighters and maintain fairness. Ignoring these boundaries, he warns, creates serious risks for the smaller athlete. In his view, Jake Paul seems more interested in promoting the spectacle than respecting boxing's core principles. Rogan's main concern is that Jake's much larger frame and punching power could genuinely endanger Tank, making this matchup unsafe and unnecessary.
But no time limit within the weight class.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
That would be pretty. That would be pretty wild.
Yeah, that'd be pretty.
Because you know, like two guys are facing off each other, like, and they know, like, there's no rescue every 5 minutes.
Yeah. And you go into it knowing you're either getting knocked down or submitted, or you're doing that to the other person.
Michael Bisping echoes similar concerns, calling the fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis a clear violation of boxing's natural balance. He points out that Jake is preparing to face an opponent nearly 100 pounds lighter, a scenario that should never happen in professional boxing. Bisping recalls that Jake's proposed bout with 58-year-old Mike Tyson was already controversial, and this latest matchup only amplifies those doubts. According to him, this isn't about fair competition but about Jake trying to gain a physical advantage for personal benefit. He stresses that boxing thrives on equality between fighters, and this fight tilts so heavily in Jake's favor that it looks more like a calculated business move than a legitimate sporting challenge.
One thing, that's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" inches tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" inches tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5" inches, okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah.
Veteran trainer Teddy Atlas reacts to the face-off between Jake Paul and Tank Davis, pointing out just how extreme the size difference really is. He jokes that Tank would practically need a ladder to reach Jake's chin, illustrating how mismatched the two appear. While Atlas acknowledges that stylistic differences make boxing interesting, he insists that this particular size gap is excessive. In his view, Tank is simply too undersized to land effectively, and that reality makes the fight look unbalanced from the very start.
Right? They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract, but I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but you know, a little different. The size difference was, I mean, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping, and it made me think. And I'm going to ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm going to ask him because I know he's an expert in this area. But it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had the face, where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Thunderlips. It was Thunderlips back there.
Joe Rogan doubles down on his earlier point, emphasizing that Jake Paul's choices are rooted in promotion, not true competition. He argues that these kinds of fights are engineered to draw casual fans and social media attention rather than to test skill or integrity. Rogan explains that betting hype, celebrity involvement, and viral marketing have replaced real sporting merit. He believes Jake understands this perfectly, using boxing as a platform for attention, even if it means staging matchups that make little competitive sense.
Problem. That makes it a problem. My opinion is, I just want to say, in case someone calls me into court, I'm a fucking idiot and I don't know nothing. And don't take my advice.
I love the Saudis.
Don't take my opinion.
I love the Israeli government. I love everybody.
That had nothing to do with them. That was Jake Paul promoting it. You know, it's just
but
doesn't bother me.
There's compromising the sport, and that's like bad. It's just like
if I bet on it, it
watching
bothers the
it is
fuck out
hard.
of me.
Watching it with people who are so in on it, and then also man, the sports betting apps, they introduced like chat apps in them in Australia, so it's like they're trying to take the place of social media companies where you go together and you meet your friends. Like betting should be exciting enough without having a weird.
They're just trying to draw you in.
thing.
They're just trying to make money, right? So they're trying to draw you in any way.
Leonard Ellerby sheds light on why Gervonta Davis didn't pursue a fight with Lamont Roach. According to him, Tank wasn't in the right mental or emotional space at the time. Ellerby says Tank had been dealing with several personal struggles and didn't want to pile on more pressure. The decision not to fight Roach wasn't about fear or avoidance, it was about self-preservation. Tank's priority, Ellerby explains, was to stabilize his personal life rather than chase validation inside the ring.
Ellerby said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it, and he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach, and that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko. So it shouldn't surprise anybody that if he tries to make a fight with Vasily Lomachenko, that fight doesn't go through. Then he tries to make a fight with Lamont Roach. He can't get the fight done for Houston with Lamont Roach because there was all kind of venue problems and drama going on around Gervonta getting a venue in Houston. So they wind up eventually moving the fight to New York City and pushing it back even further. So not only is it a fight where he didn't just jump out of from his last fight that he had and jump into a fight with Lamont Roach, he got held up. And then also during that period of time, he had to spend some time in jail for a parole violation after the, well, I believe that might have been after the Lamont Roach.
Reports have surfaced suggesting that Gervonta Davis plans to retire after his fight with Jake Paul. Insiders say this decision has less to do with legacy and more with financial security. The matchup offers Tank a massive payday, And for someone who has already achieved considerable success, the financial aspect seems to outweigh the desire for further titles. Analysts describe the bout as a business transaction, a calculated move to secure long-term stability before walking away from the sport. Many also note that Tank has been under intense public pressure and emotional strain in recent years, which could explain why he's chosen a high-profile but unconventional opponent as his final fight.
What you make? Like, let's go band for band on what you make. Again, there's nothing wrong with Tank going to get his money, but let's all be clear that that's all the fight is for Tank. He's telling you without telling you that he's fighting Jake just because he's getting $40 million. So when we talk about boxing being dead, Tank has to line up at the front of the line. I can't blame him, but don't throw around, oh, boxing's dead and people switch sides and all of that. You chose not to be great. That's it. You chose not to be great. Stuff like that, choices like that will kill boxing. For sure. On a competitive level, it won't kill it on a business level. On a business level, until people run out of interest in these kind of matchups, it'll do well. On a competitive level, choosing not to fight the best will kill the sport. So maybe it's better if people like Tank aren't in the sport. And I don't even say that because I want that to be the case. I think Tank is ridiculously talented, but you can't want a fighter to fight more than what they want to. You can't. Tank fans or Tank people that like Tank and think he's one of the best, you can't want it for him. And then Shakur came back with, that's how I know you soft. I can't even go back and forth with you soft ass. You rather pop to me on social media than get in that fire and get embarrassed. I get it. Peace and blessings upon you, cuz. He says, the people got your chest out so bad. You talking like you a killer, forgetting that you the one that runs, bitch. I'll be bring the fight to you. This dude, a made-up character. Quote, blessings upon you. Clown-ass dude, wanna be Kevin Gates. Oh my goodness. I mean, here's the thing though. You can't say that stuff about Shakur if you're not willing to fight him. This is the point I think that we're going to come to today, is that Tank can say all this stuff he wants, but if you're not willing to fight Shakur, then none of it means anything anymore. Even if you believe that Tank is going to knock him out, even if you believe that Shakur's a runner, or that he's not in the trenches, or he's not a boxer that's willing to bring the fight, or whatever, none of it matters. You're talking from the sideline because you.
Daniel Cormier expresses disbelief over how the fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis was ever sanctioned. He recalls the press conference where even Tank seemed unsure of which weight class the bout would fall under, a red flag in a sport built around strict divisions. Cormier finds the entire setup poorly structured and deeply concerning. He highlights the glaring size disparity between the fighters and questions how such a contest could receive approval from any regulatory body. To him, the fight not only undermines fairness but also poses genuine safety risks. Cormier concludes that this matchup reflects how entertainment value is increasingly being prioritized over boxing's competitive standards.
Jake Paul. Yesterday they had their first press conference. One of the most recognizable things is Jake Paul is huge compared to Gervonta Davis. And two, Gervonta Davis don't even know what weight they fight, dude.
Maximum weight of 195 pounds for this exhibition. The fight will be contested over 10 3-minute rounds. I said the fight is 195 pounds, Tank, as you know.
DC, I watched this, and we have our priorities way misplaced when we're talking about boxing. Like, everybody's complaining about this Ali act and all. Like, how is something like this allowed to happen? How is Jake Paul allowed to fight Gervonta Davis? It's
I don't know.
Completely unfair. It is completely just, it's, I can't say the word that I want to say because I don't want to get canceled, but this fight should not be happening. And the press conference was embarrassing. Gervonta Davis should not have a mic in front of him. It was absolutely embarrassing watching this thing.
D, why, D?
Just the fact that, like, every time when Jake Paul would say something to Gervonta Davis, he didn't know how to answer it. He was comparing himself to, like, P. Diddy at moments, and I was like, oh my God, get a mic away from this guy. This fight shouldn't be happening. And then he didn't even know what weight they were fighting. Like, I thought it was
bad, D.
195.
That was the craziest thing. That was the thing that stood out to me the most. Was that when they go, the rehydration limit or something is 195. And he goes, wait, I thought it was 190. Dean, that's bad.
Reflecting on his own journey, Gervonta Davis admits that becoming a world champion was never his original dream. For him, boxing was a way out of hardship, a path toward financial freedom and a better life. He explains that his focus has always been on securing his future, not chasing fame or historical recognition. This mindset puts his current choices into perspective, showing that his decision to face Jake Paul may stem more from personal goals than public expectations.
And while he's fighting YouTube sensation turned professional boxer Jake Paul, who is 12 wins, 1 loss, no draws, 7 wins by way of knockout, opposed to fighting against the likes of his peers who are well accomplished and superstars in their own right for legacy fights like Shakur Stevenson, like Teofimo Lopez, like Devin Haney. Why he's not interested in those fights. And he gets real, right? He gets real, and only thing we could do is salute it, right? Because he's saying, I never told y'all I wanted to be a world champion. I never told y'all I wanted to be undisputed. I got into this for myself and my circumstances to escape from my circumstances. And that's real. We can't blame him for that. We hold him in high regard because the statements he's made and misled people when he said he got a hit list that he wants to check off before he retires, and that hit list includes Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney, Lomachenko, who turned down the fight because of a severe back injury. And then he told the world, he told Champside, it would be great for him to become undisputed. So I think that he had a change of heart at some point in time along the way, right?
Boxing commentator Showbiz the Adult offers a more balanced take. He credits Jake Paul for using his platform to bring new attention to the sport, introducing boxing to audiences that might never have watched otherwise. Jake's promotional skills and ability to generate conversation are undeniable. However, Showbiz also points out the recurring criticism: Jake consistently chooses opponents who are smaller, older, or outside their natural weight divisions. This pattern raises doubts about his commitment to true competition.
Boxing is going to sing his praises like a hero. Though Jake Paul is definitely appreciated by the boxing world when it comes to what he is giving to the sport, especially women's boxing, okay? I mean, it goes without saying that Jake Paul, an MVP, has added to the sport of boxing. But Jake Paul, the fighter, people are over his shit. There's a huge amount of boxing pugilists in the boxing community who's over his shit. And if Gervonta Tank Davis stops that, if he is the one who stops this whole train, knocking out Jake Paul, he will become a boxing hero. People will then say, now get the hell out of the sport. And I'm talking about from a fighter's perspective. That's what they're going to say. Now, it's not going to go on either one of their official records because it's an exhibition.
That recurring issue, Showbiz notes, has divided the boxing community. Many fans believe these mismatched fights damage the sport's reputation and cheapen its traditions. Still, he suggests that if Gervonta Davis were to decisively defeat Jake Paul, it could mark a turning point, a symbolic victory for boxing purists. In that scenario, Tank wouldn't just win a fight, he'd restore some balance and integrity to the sport by ending the trend of spectacle-driven mismatches.
Optically, visually, seeing that go viral, and I mean go viral, and Jake Paul will never hear the end of it.
Help you up. We're gonna see about it. Help you up. We're gonna see.
Because Gervonta Tank Davis is not only a real boxer, he's a real boy. He's 5'5". He's a lightweight. Skills pay the bills. Let him knock out Jake Paul, give him bandy legs, or knock him down. Gervonta Tank Davis, that moment will go viral, and he will be a far bigger, well-known boxer than he is today, and he will also be a hero. And that's the black sugar. That you guys don't want to admit it. Don't bull jive. Think about it.
That's all for today's coverage. Stay tuned for more updates, reactions, and analysis as the Jake Paul vs. Gervonta Tank Davis story continues to unfold.